Alright everyone, it's definitely garden update time right now because you have no conception of how wonderful this is. As you can see, this is pure leaf compost. It's fairly cheap, you know, it's higher in nitrogen than anything. It's not as stable, but here's the thing. This bed has actually been amended using the Lasagna gardening method. Now what this is the, oh, that's a little bit of a weed. On the bottom, here's the soil down there, and that soil was already kind of amended. On top of that, there's a bunch of grass clippings and straw, some green material mixed with some bark chips, pine cone chips, some twigs. There are a few pine needles. Now, a common misconception is that these acidify the soil. When they break down, they actually don't. That was taken, and what I did is I took some chunks of this, which is just basically pure hay, straw, and a couple bags of this, and I've actually we even raked up a couple more of them, so there's plenty. A couple bags of this. It's mostly leaf, some grass clippings, and then there are twigs, pine needles and stuff. You take them and you pile them together. You take a lawnmower and you mow over them a few times to break them apart a little bit. You don't need to break them down completely. In fact, you don't want to. You want it to be nice and loose and airy. Put that down here, about 2 inches depth. And then this is peat moss, primarily. That's for moisture retention. That does acidify a little bit, but it's not. I've already done a pH test. It's fine. And then that's 6 bags worth of the leaf compost. I need about 6 more to cover the rest of this area, and then a few more to raise it up. And this is going to be raised all the way right up to here, about 4 inches. And because the soil below was amended, it's actually rather good. And that's just for this bed. This is going to be for herbs, mainly basil, oregano, thyme, some rosemary, a little lavender actually, and then the chamomile. This bed I've covered in straw. The bricks have been removed in order to border this one, because this one's going to have wooden bordering. This is basically just the peach tree and some perennials. This one is going to be expanded, I would say, probably a foot this way and a little less, you know, a few inches that way. Make it larger. This is going to be perennials as well, not raised. These 2 beds are just for decoration, because that's actually the centerpiece of what's going to be the garden, because I'm going to be expanding it that way, actually a good 10 feet, and adding in some new beds. And then these, each one of these 4 long beds, these are exactly 4 feet wide, more or less. Literally, I almost got it exact just by measuring it by brick width. I don't know how I did it, but I didn't even use a ruler or a yardstick or anything. And then I can't remember exactly what the exact length was. I think it was 14 feet. These are going to be wooden bordered, 3 bags, and then, you know, a good quarter of this pile of hay per one to raise them up about 2 inches. Then the whole bale of peat moss for 2.5 inches roughly of depth. And then the rest filled in with garden soil. I'm going to try garden soil in these, leaf compost in this, and these 2, which are going to be for cold weather crops, I'm going to raise them up a little bit less, honestly. A little bit less of the peat moss, actually, only a dusting. I'm going to test that on these beds because they've been amended already by carbon-rich biochar. What I'm going to try doing with these ones, actually, is I'm going to raise them up only about 4 inches. You know, I'll use bricks for them. I'm actually going to take the bricks from these 4 beds and reinforce these. It'll be more like this a little bit. And that's for cabbage. I figured, you know, you can put a row of cabbage on this side. 2 rows of collards, you know, uneven, maybe a third. I'm not actually 100% sure. I'll have to take a measurement. And then this one, spinach and lettuce, basically. With some cucumbers that I'm going to transplant in later. I'll leave a row open for those. On this side, this here, because they didn't do well on the other side, I think there's a little bit of an imbalance. That soil literally starting about there has something wrong with it. I'm not exactly sure what it was. But there's the cold weather crops. So a little bit of that mix, not very much, mixed together with a little bit of the peat moss, and then mostly just garden soil on the top of those, with some mushroom compost actually, which is legendary in how effective it is because it's extremely organic. It's like if compost is good, mushroom compost is God mode basically. And you can see most of the pots made it through the winter despite being left out here and abandoned. I'm going to get about twice that many. I want to have a big area of flowers right in the middle, and this is going to be removed. What I'm thinking of is actually taking some containers, some hoop containers, putting about 3 of them in there just for some flowers, putting the pots around them for more flowers, and it'll look nice. You know, I want the garden to look nice, not just be functional. But this looks so much better. You can see the color difference between largely peat moss and the finished product. Again, 10 bags total to raise this bed up fully. It already looks amazing. Now, some horseradish will push up in this bed, but that's fine. See, what I'm going to do tomorrow, after that's all added, I've got a huge amount of money right now actually transferring. It won't be until tomorrow, and that's how I'm going to buy all that. From Ace Hardware, by the way, here in Rutland, Vermont. You should patronize them, definitely. These chamomile plants, dig around them. I can get about 10 of them, and I'm going to put them in. All I've got to do is have enough soil, because that stuff underneath, with a lasagna garden, that material underneath will begin to break down over time as it gets wet. The rain comes. I've already soaked it in nitrate-rich kelp meal, so no problems there. Once that's, this top layer is basically where the seedlings and so forth will be growing originally. With the herbs this year, I'm going to be getting like those 6-packs. The farmer's market here has a lot of vendors that sell plants, organic, of course. That's where I'm going to get most of those. And then the chamomile I can supply. And the neighbors have a gravel driveway and just decided to speed out of it, so you might have heard that. But this is going to be excellent soil. For 3 or 4 years, that material will be composting in. All you got to do is like basically scrape the surface. It's almost no-till gardening. It's going to be great. And with these beds that were even better to begin with, I can't even imagine how those are going to function. So definitely, as you can see, a little bit more even and professional than it has been in past years. That's about all. Garden update. Peace out.